Hello, this is JP Hrisoulas, the Cranky Old Bastard, with another video. This one is going to be on a couple of topics. One is the direction where this channel is going, what's been going on there, and why you should forge, or why you should do stock removal, and what the advantages are thereof. Well, many of you know, well, some of you might know, I have been fighting this computer problem for about 2 months now, and it's dead. I tried saving the files. They saved some of them. We got the one hard drive replaced for the storage, and then the other hard drive went belly up as well a few days ago. Things were getting really slow, and it's just a big mess. So I am now on a borrowed laptop that is running Windows Vista. And this thing is about as slow could be. I've seen snails that work faster than this thing, but what that means is until I get my new computer, I was supposed to have one here, but they sent the wrong machine, and it's just a big mess. So I got the return me label on the box, and that'll be going out, and who knows when that machine will be here. Hopefully it'll be the right one. Until then, I cannot post anything to my website as far as photos go. I cannot post any videos out in the studio because I can't upload them to this machine because there's no hard, disk drive in this for the little CD, DVD thing, square ones, little disc in them. Well, not square ones, just a little disc. And there's no way to upload that. For the software for my video camera, luckily my web camera here hooks right up to the machine as nicely working, which I think is quite nice. It's about time I got a break. And until that happens, I don't know what's going to do as far as posting stuff on the website. I can edit text, and I can sort of answer emails, although it is really long and hard for me to do so. But please bear with me. Anyway, back onto the subject of where this channel is going. I would like to get more viewers. I would certainly like that. I'd like to get more subscribers. So if any of you folks out there have any idea how I can up both, I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, until I get the new machine and I get all the software loaded and the drives loaded for my cameras and printer and all this other good stuff, hopefully I can figure out how to do that. I did it once before. I can probably do it again. But until then, I can just about load texts, and I will have a little note on that at the end of this video. So let's go towards forging versus stock removal. We sort of dabbled on this a little bit in previous videos. If you're a pure forger, you still have to do stock removal because you got to sharpen the blade, you got to profile it, and that is a removal of material, aka stock removal. The first cutting implements that man made all those millennia ago were basically stock removal. You can't, like I said before, you can't forge a rock, you can't forge a bone, you can't forge a piece of shell. You just chip it out, remove it. You can braid it, chip it, fracture it, make it sharp in any number of ways, and you can cut with it. And obsidian is one of the sharpest edges you can possibly get. And believe me, I know, because I've tried flint mapping a couple of times and go to the hospital to have my hands sewed back up. But be that as it may. So we're going to delve with the advantages of stock removal versus the advantages of forging. We'll start with stock removal first. One, it is a lot less money to do. The material that you use for stock material and equipment that you will use for stock removal will be needed to do forging as well. Any decent belt grinder will work. You don't even have to have a belt grinder. You can use it all by files and hand tools, which I did for a long time, and it can be done. It has been done, but it takes a while. It takes a good deal of patience and perseverance in order to get a decent knife. You send the blade out to heat treat. They heat treat it for you to your specifications. They send it back, and you finish up the knife. What that means is you can also use alloys that aren't really that friendly to the quote-unquote beginning blade forger, due to the fact they might be hardening steel, they might be high alloy, they might have to have special heat treating requirements. You might have special working temperature ranges. Much better to start with a simpler steel than a more complicated one, but be that as it may. Most of your stock removal steels are ATS-34, AEDL, the 52100, CRMV, various other rich, high alloy steels, which, while they can be forged, can basically be a good pain in the neck for people that really aren't that familiar with working high alloy steels, because most of them are very red hard, and if you don't do it right, you can crack them, chip them, or basically foobar the blade, and there's enough of that going around here right now for me to think about that. But that's one of the things about stock removal. Another one of the advantages are that you can get the ready-made bars. You don't have to draw down material. You can basically trace your design out on them, grind them to shape, file them to shape, heat treat them, finish them up, and you're basically done, which is basically what you do with forging. Now, forging, on the other hand, it is a little more expensive because you do have the added expense of the equipment, the hammers, the forges, the anvils. You can get by with very little. When I first started out all those years ago, I basically had a 2-pound double-ended jack, which I still have, and a chunk of railroad track, and I still have that one too. Matter of fact, I liked it so much I went and got myself 3 or 4 more chunks and keep them all around my studio because they're good for setting pins and mobile things that you have to whack on if you need something bumped or set. Just have one on each bench, sort of like my tape measures. I have at least one tape measure on every bench I have, so I have to go hunting up tape measures all the time. Sometimes I still do because I'm absent-minded, and something gets in my mind, it bounces around in there until it finds its way out. But the advantages of forging are that you do not have the size limits of a certain dimension of steel. If you want to do a trailing point hunter or a trailing point skinner where the tip of the blade comes behind the center line of the blade, to do that with stock removing, you have to use a wider piece of steel and just trace it out there. On forging, nothing, just heat it up, put it into the anvil or the horn, tap it, and it's curved. That's all done in the forging process. Another nice thing about forging, it makes putting in distal tapers so much easier, so much quicker. And distal tapering is important as far as balance of the blade and blade geometry, in fact. You open up an entirely new realm of possibilities as far as your design goes. Plus, there are some things that you can do better forging than you can with stock removal. One of them is fullering. If you don't have an end mill, you try to do a stock removal, you're basically going to be stuck with doing it with a small wheel attachment on a belt grinder or a flexible handpiece like a Fordham or the like, and cutting that out and everything else. Well, I do have both. Most of my fullers I put in hot, or they're scraped in, which is after they're hammered in. Although on the Japanese stuff I used to do, I don't do those anymore. I scraped those in by hand after I did a quick and dirty grinding in. I finished up, scraped them in, and that was all done cold. So that was a little bit time consuming, but it can be done. Another nice thing about the forging is you can get blade shapes that would be, like I said, damn near impossible to get with stock removal, or very, very expensive to do. I will admit I am biased towards forging. I always have been, probably always will be, and even though I totally agree that some very beautiful work that comes out of knife grinders, it's still knife grinding, and I just find that boring as boring can be. But everybody has their own little thoughts on the matter. One of my dearest friends, Bob Egnath, he made a living out of grinding knives for people. He had that. First off, he started with house and muzzleloading back in Glendale, which later became blades and stuff, and he made a very good business out of grinding various blade styles for people, ready to go, out the door, heat treated, thermal treated, heat treated, tempered, ready to finish up. Ground, I think 240 or 320 grit, and slap your handle on them, and you're done. And I know quite a few makers nowadays that started out doing that with those blades. Their names will remain with me until I die, because I don't want to cause anybody any problems. But everybody, I think, at one time or another did that. I didn't do it because I didn't know about that when I first started out. I just went out in the backyard and started swinging a hammer. And my neighbor, Herr Hoffman, God rest his soul, he was a very good man. He took me under his wing and showed me a lot of blacksmithing techniques, a lot of them, and I am forever in his debt. And I hope he's looking down at me from Amish heaven, wherever that may be, going, yeah, the Yankee did good, the Yankee did good. And the English boy, And he was an interesting man. His wife was a real gem. She was a sweetheart. Very stern on the outside, but she had a little bit of the devil in her, because you didn't want to get her mad. But the Amish are good people. They live a clean life, and God bless them. But anyway, going back to the forging, when you start doing this, you have to realize that you have to take it seriously. Just like anything else, you can't half-ass it. Because if you half-ass it, you can really screw up a blade if you poorly forge it, because you're playing with the grain structure. You're playing with the size. You're playing with thermal treatment, repeated thermal cycles, hot, cooler, hotter, cooler, hotter, cooler. And it can really play havoc with the grain structure and cause cracking and grain separation. And it's just, you got to really take it easy. You got to take it slow, learn from your piece, find a steel that you like a 10 series or an 01 or an O series, or a 10 series like 1095, 1084, 1060, 1070, plowshare steel, whatever you want to call it. Learn that steel intimately. Get the last bit of performance out of it, because then you can start branching off into other materials. Don't do what I did and just jump straight on into it and start pattern welding, because that was my mistake, and I made a $50 knife. Actually, I made a $5 knife out of a $500 piece of steel, and that was very embarrassing. I still have that knife. One of these days I'll break it out and show it to you. It's very humbling. Whenever I start feeling a little my oats, I start thinking, I take this thing out and go, boy, I really made a piece of crap here. But I was proud of it back then. When you're a 12-year-old kid, you're doing stuff that nobody else has done that you know of in a long, long time. And boy, did I learn different from that. But another thing that you can do with forging that you can't do with stock removal is make laminate steel. Whether it's pattern welded, laminate, welded elevator cable, or wire rope, whatever you want to call it, you can't do it with stock removal. You have to have the pattern welded. You have to have the material welded up somewhere, and it's going to be forged, because that's the only way you can make it. Unless you get some of that Danish or Swedish stuff, which is powdered metallurgy, which I have never used, but I do know quite a few people that have, and they seem to like it. But it's kind of, how do I put it, sanitized. There's really no organic feel to it. And as you cannot tell by my previous videos, I am very much into the organic feel of things and the natural flow, and having your own little bit of you work its way into the piece, which was what I call the soul of the craftsman. Because every time a craftsman picks up something, whether it's a hammer or a chisel or any other tool or a piece of steel and a pair of tongs you're heating up, a little bit of your creativity goes into that piece, and it's like a thumbprint. You have your own styles and stuff like that, but I don't want to get into the esoteric meaning on that. But like I said, the advantages of forging is you do have a lot more freedom and a lot more opportunity to get crazy and wild with stuff than you do with stock removal. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I mean, the knife maker, Ken Crocker, do you believe his name was Ken? He came up with some really wild stuff back in the 1980s that was all stock removal. I mean, he had shark teeth on these blades coming out the sides, out the back, I mean, around the edge and the handles, forged bolsters with all kinds of neat little things in them. He, not forged, but ground out bolsters, removed. He did a whole bunch of really sophisticated machinery on that, and I keep scratching my head, how in the hell did he do that? But he did it, and he had some really wild designs. God rest his soul. He was a very, very creative an inspired man. I spoke with him a couple of times, but I didn't really know him that well, but I was impressed by what he was doing with more than a drill press and a file. The man was a machinist genius, and very creative and very artistic, and his blades, even though they were stock removal, had a flow to them. And some were just downright weird. But, you know, he was some interesting blades. If you ever get a chance to look him up, the CRONK, I'm pretty sure there's something out there on the internet for him. But if you're going to forge, you're still going to have to do stock removal, because you still have to put in the edge bevels and get those down to where they're thin enough to sharpen, and sharpening. And sharpening itself is removing stock. So as I said before, it is stock removal. So the choice is yours. As I said before at the beginning of this video, and many times before, I am a very, very strong, ardent supporter of forging blades. Properly forged blade will have a feeling in the hand that you don't get really from a blade run out of a bar stock. Even though I have felt some ground out blades that felt pretty good, but I am leaning very much towards the forged blade. Besides, it's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of frustration and just annoyance when something doesn't work right, like that thing that happened with that Boots Conjar. That was just a heartbreak, but I persevered. I stood up, dusted myself off, and went out and grabbed another one of my little Boots cakes here. You know, this is going to go in something, and forged out another blade, and this one didn't crack. So I figured out what I did wrong with that first one, and I still kick myself with that. But like I said, the choice is yours. You can go either way. I do a little bit of both, mostly forging. I do some stock removal, because I do grind in my edge bevels after I forge them in, clean everything up. That's done with a belt grinder. And I will do an episode on belt grinders once I get my new computer in and get that loaded up. And when that's going to be, I have no idea. I still have to figure out how to pay for the damn thing. Which brings us to this. On my website, www.atar.com, the pieces I have available right now are going to go on sale to help pay off that new machine. It will be going up on the 24th, which is the day before my birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, because it's I'm over the hill and well up the next rise, or as my son likes to put it, I'm on the downhill side of 100, way on the downhill side of 100. So other than that, take a look at the site. There are some nice carbon steel pieces and some nice pattern welded pieces in there. Like I said, the sale will start tomorrow, the 24th of October 2025, and will run for about till, let's say, the 5th of November, or until maybe, hopefully, if I sell everything out, that'll be great. Prices will be drastically reduced, between 30 and 35% off what I usually go. If you would be so kind as to look, and something tickles your fancy, drop me an email or call me with the number on the website. Evenings are best time to call. Email, like I said, is spotty. It takes me forever to access them, but that's all it is for right now. Thank you so much for your time and for your interest in supporting my channel. If you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like button. As soon as I'm back up and running, I will be doing some other videos. I actually have a couple already in the camera that I cannot download onto my YouTube channel, because I have no way to hook them up to this laptop, because there's no place for me to put the disc to load up the software for the camera to download. This is like a dinosaur. It's sort of like me. Outlived its good time, I guess, but it's still working, just like this old bastard. Thank you once more for your time, interest. May Wise Lord Mazda bless you and yours. Have a wonderful evening, and like I said, please drop by my website starting Friday the 24th of October 2025, and have a pleasant evening, and Wise Lord bless you.